Today, I embark on a journey to beat the original trilogy of the God of War franchise. God of War Ragnarok recently came out, and it made me very interested in the series as a whole. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with your friends. I put a lot of time into this one, so I hope you guys enjoy, and there will be spoilers for God of War 1, 2, and 3, so be warned. So, we start off our journey with the original God of War, and the start of the start is Kratos jumping off the tallest mountain. You know the meme where he just yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But the game explains that this is Kratos trying to unalive himself, and puts us back in time a bit to understand why he's trying to do such a thing. The game starts off in the most Kratos way possible. You slay a giant Leviathan and straight up murder this guy. Like, you need the key on his neck, but Kratos had legitimately no reason to let this guy go after bringing him up. Anyways, the game explains to us that Kratos has been traveling from place to place to do war stuff, and tells us he is haunted by nightmares because of something bad he did. Naughty, naughty Kratos. Wait a minute. I am the god here. Fear me, Kratos. Fear me. Oh, fuck. So, this journey has Kratos trying to find Pandora's box, as inside of it is a weapon that Kratos needs to defeat Ares, the god of war that Kratos gave his life to in exchange for winning him a battle that Kratos was on the verge of losing. Ares sears the blades of chaos into Kratos' arms, a permanent reminder of the deal they made. Kratos thinks that if he kills Ares and the gods forgive his sins, he will stop having nightmares about the horrible things he has done. The game is kinda all over the place at first. You start out at Athens to kill some dudes, but then you need to go to the Desert of Lost Souls to kill 3 Siren Lady snake things so you can get to Pandora's temple. This desert is like the Mario 64 Infinite Staircase because you have to not BJ, sorry. Don't worry guys, you don't have to blowjob for this part. You have to BLJ or backwards long jump to get around anywhere here. In all seriousness though, this desert is pretty huge and the sand that covers the entire screen got pretty annoying pretty quickly. You're told you need to listen for the sirens singing, but before I knew what that sounded like, every noise in the stupid desert made me think I was going the right way. I did not like the Desert of Lost Souls. After the Desert of My Lost Sanity, you find out that Pandora's temple is actually on the back of this giant troll dude who is aimlessly wandering through the desert forever. You blow into a horn and this calls him over to you. Then, apparently it took Kratos 3 full days to climb the giant and the temple to get to the entrance. God damn, I can't even climb for 3 minutes. Kratos is crazy. This is where the majority of the game takes place. I thought you would be constantly going from place to place in this game, but Pandora's temple is huge, man. It's full of puzzles that I won't get into detail about because they cause me a lot of pain, and I think if I think about them for too long, I'll genuinely have a heart attack. There's a lot of pushing, a lot of rotating, and a lot of wrestling with the bullshit PS2 engine issues. Along the way, you get Poseidon's Trident, which allows you to swim underwater and gives you the ability to breathe underwater. Throughout your whole journey, you also get powers from different gods, which help you on your adventure. Some of these are definitely more useful than others, but they become pretty much necessary by the end of the game. You can upgrade these spells as well as your blades using red orbs that you get by defeating enemies and opening chests. You also have to defeat this giant minotaur wearing armor because Hades, who is literally Satan himself, thought that this giant cowman needed like 3 layers of thick steel to protect him. Anyways, after all my trials and tribulations of this godforsaken temple, I got Pandora's box and dragged it to the entrance of the temple so I could bring it to Athens and finally defeat Ares. But then, all the way from Athens, Ares somehow fucking knows that you got Pandora's box, so he picks up a stake of stone and throws it across the goddamn planet and it hits you right in the middle of the chest. This dude's accuracy is crazy. He should try like CSGO or something. This genuinely pissed me off. Kratos actually dies here, like seriously. He goes down to the pits of hell and in true Kratos fashion refuses to die, and he pushes that guy with the key from the beginning of the game off a cliff again. Damn. You go through hell, which is marvelously designed because I think this section of the game is what actual Satan uses to torture dead people. After literally climbing through hell, Kratos goes straight to Ares for the final battle. The first section is easy. You get giant because you steal back Pandora's box and open it. Then Ares puts you in a false reality to confront the things that haunts Kratos. While he was burning and raiding a village for Ares, he accidentally killed his wife and child. This false reality has you defeat way too many Kratos clones, and you hug your family to give them some of your health so they can survive the onslaught of Kratos clones. This part started to get me angry, but nothing too bad. After this, Ares takes your blades from you, so you pick up a giant ass sword that the gods left for you apparently. This third fucking phase of the boss fight made me lose it. There are moves you can't dodge, moves with busted hitboxes, Ares can block your attacks way too often, and worst of all, the quick time event. Throughout this game, there are a stupid amount of QuickTime events. While the hack and slash part of the gameplay was pretty fun, these QuickTime events would often quickly ruin my enjoyment of a battle. Like, I shit you not, some of the basic enemies that you have to spam circle really quickly on feel nearly impossible. I'm being genuinely serious when I say this. The knuckles on my right hand started to swell up and get red after I was about halfway through the game because of all the times you had to spam buttons really fast. I don't know if this is just a me thing, but I have seen a lot of people on the internet complain about the bullshit spam circle parts of this game. This last phase of the final boss needs you to press circle so fast that I actually started to think I wasn't even pressing circle, even though I was pressing it faster than I've ever pressed anything. I was desperate after about 20 deaths. I started looking online for things I was doing wrong, but most of it was just saying you have to do it in a certain rhythm, but still extremely fast. In a weird way, life kind of imitated art when I gave my life to the god of QuickTime events. Dual shock! Defeat my enemy, and my soul is yours. They gave me the power of turbo mode, but in turn I sold my soul to them. The funny thing is, I'm not even sure if the turbo mode worked because I still couldn't do it after I activated it until I either got super lucky or just went beast mode on the controller. I finally beat Ares. I slayed a god, but I was left with a feeling of uncertainty. I feel like I didn't deserve the win. Even though I don't even know if turbo mode even did anything, I still feel like I cheated the game and am not worthy. I am really sorry for this, guys, but I seriously can't stress how impossible this QuickTime event was. Kratos then takes Ares' place as the god of war, and the credits roll after the dickhead developers give you a message saying, "Well done, but do it for real this time. Fuck you." I have very mixed feelings about this game. At its best, it's damn near perfect, and at its worst, it legitimately will gaslight you into thinking you're not inputting buttons and will give you swollen knuckles. It was good, but not great. I had a lot of fun with it, but it was also incredibly insufferable at times. It might not seem like it, but I am genuinely upset about the final boss incident. Anyways, it's time for God of War 2, so buckle up. God of War 2 starts with Kratos abusing the hell out of his god status. He is waging war all over the place, and Athena is trying to stop him. She summons a giant statue to take care of him. Zeus comes from the skies and gives Kratos a cool sword that is promised to be able to kill the statue, and it does kill the statue. However, it also drains Kratos of all his god powers into the sword itself. A double betrayal from Athena and Zeus. I honestly really like this sword idea because it gives an explanation as to why Kratos doesn't have all the powers and health from the first game anymore. Zeus stabs Kratos with the god sword and he dies again. He is getting dragged into hell by these skinny hell hands when Mother Earth herself saves Kratos so he can go on a quest to defeat Zeus. You go to the Temple of the Three Sisters of Fate or something like that, so you can change Kratos' fate and go back in time to kill Zeus. God of War 2 is, in my opinion, better in every way compared to God of War 1. The graphics look better, the controls feel smoother, the combat is even more elegantly brutal. They made the climbing mechanics not the most excruciatingly painful slow thing in the universe, and it actually feels really fun to climb walls in this game. The QuickTime events are pretty good, and thank Zeus they fixed the circle button mashing. It would appear that I was not the only one who broke their thumb trying to open a door in the first game. There are also many new power-ups and a lot more weapons to use. There's a giant hammer you get by defeating the barbarian that was going to kill Kratos in the first game before Ares saved him. I honestly thought it was pretty cool that they brought him back for you to fight. You also get this spear that's purple, very cool. I think I only used these weapons when I first got them. Honestly, the blades of Athena are just better. Oh, that's another thing. I thought that Kratos used the blades of Chaos throughout all of the God of War games, but they actually got permanently taken away at the ending of God of War 1, and are replaced by the blades of Athena, which look pretty much identical to the blades of Chaos. Anyways, boobies. I didn't know if I wanted to talk about this in God of War 1, but in that game there were quite a few times where they just show you boobs. I didn't know if I should mention it because I thought Sony would get their act together for the second game, but nope. More boobs. A lot more. Listen, I get this is an edgy 2000s game, so obviously there are going to be boobs at some point, but why on earth did they need to include one of the Sisters of Fate, who is a giant gray pillar of flesh with honkers hanging out everywhere? The other sisters have their milkers out too, and even some of the basic enemies. Man, I've seen too many, man. I gotta go to therapy, man. The pillar boobies, I can't take it anymore. Even Mother Earth herself has giant Earth, whatever. At least they had the courtesy of not giving her rock nipples. Anyways, after getting to the temple, you complete puzzle after puzzle, boss after boss, until you finally get to the first two sisters who you swiftly defeat. Honestly, the puzzles in this game are great, besides this one with spikes in the floor because it's stupid and dumb. After you defeat the first two sisters, you move on to the pillar one and kill her too, giving you access to the threads of life. You can now go back in time to change Kratos' fate. You enter an awesome final boss fight with Zeus himself, using the sword from the beginning of the game to just stab him a billion times. Eventually, when you have Zeus pinned down and are about to end him, Athena comes and sacrifices her life for Zeus because something, if Zeus dies, so does Olympus, something, which is kind of cringe of her if you ask me. She explains to Kratos that he is actually the son of Zeus, making him just like the gods he hates so much. Kratos then goes back in time to gather all of the Titans who are like Mother Nature's family so they can storm Olympus and put an end to Zeus once and for all. And that's when the game ends. Honestly, God of War 2 was a huge upgrade from God of War 1. It was more fun for me, the pacing felt more consistent, the puzzles were cooler, and it was a very good sequel. But now it is time for me to move on to God of War 3. I have been excited to play this one since the very beginning. Brace yourselves, because it's time for Kratos to go absolutely ham. Before I start with my review for God of War 3, I'd like to tell you a story. This is a story about a boy who wanted to play God of War 3 on his computer. He spent all day downloading the emulator and the game itself. Excited to play, he booted it up only to be faced with 2 frames per second on the loading screen. No problem, he thought, and he went to the settings to see what he could do. He was met with the most intricately complicated settings ever forged by man. There were GPU settings, something called LLVM, ZCULL, SPURS threads, PTSD, BBC, fucking GTG settings, and many more. Overwhelmed, he turned to the internet to see what he could do. Everything he tried failed miserably. He spent 2 days trying to get it to work, but it would seem the gods had abandoned him. Out of desperation, he looked for other solutions, and found out you could actually purchase God of War 3 Remastered on the PS4 shop. So, he dug out his PS4 from its grave and set it up. I yield, Sony. I will use your digital store. End my life and release me from this eternal torment. I will take your life, son, but your torture has only just begun. Take your final breath, mortal. This game starts in the coolest way possible. After a short cinematic showing everything we've seen so far from the last 2 games, Kratos fights on Mother Earth while she climbs up to Olympus. You start this game by killing Poseidon. In the last 2 games, killing a god was this huge deal with hours of build-up. But God of War 3 Kratos just does not give a fuck. Eventually, Mother Earth, who is called Gaia by the way, so I'm just going to refer to her as that for the remainder of this video, gets her hand torn up really badly by one of these water horse things, and while she's clinging onto the mountain she was climbing, Kratos is still trying to get to Olympus, but she chooses her life over Kratos's and sends him to hell. This is the 3rd fucking time. Kratos just goes to the afterlife, and honestly I love that he just leaves like it's nothing every time. So while Kratos is in hell, he eventually finds Hades, who is just fucking pissed at him for killing his wife, which he did in the first game and I totally forgot about. So shortly after killing the god of the seas, you kill the god of the underworld, taking his own weapon from him to pull the soul out of him. Kratos pulls the soul out of actual Satan like it's just another Thursday. God, I love this game. When Kratos fell into hell, he was floating through this river of souls or something, and he loses his health and magic again, which explains why he won't have these stats from the previous game. And I'm glad they do this because it once again gives a reason for Kratos lacking all of his powers from the previous title. I know I already mentioned this when I was talking about God of War 2, but I don't know, it's a really nice detail. Athena's soul gives Kratos a replacement for his blades, which were ruined in the river, and this new weapon is the Blades of Exile. On top of them having a badass name, they also look the coolest out of all of Kratos' blade variants so far, in my opinion. So, after escaping hell, you continue on to killing more gods. You kill Helios, who is the god of the sun or something like that, and even though he's not really on bad terms with Kratos and begs for him to let him live, Kratos straight up rips his head off and uses it as a nightlight. Every time you pull it out, you can hear Helios screaming, and I kind of feel bad for the head, man, because I felt like the head was still alive in a way. Next up is Hermes, who is the messenger for the gods. He runs really fast due to his boots. He taunts Kratos for a bit, being the equivalent of an annoying child, and ridicules Kratos for killing his wife and child. They really like rubbing that in on Kratos, and I think it might be time for them to come up with a new insult. Eventually, you catch up to Hermes by flinging yourself at a statue, and you cut both of his legs off. This part where Kratos slowly walks up to Hermes was just so awesome, and it did feel very satisfying to kill this absolute bastard. The next god on Kratos' absolute rampage is Hercules. In one of the most badass cutscenes in video game history, Kratos stands absolutely unfazed as this giant beast of a man stomps up to him, with each step shaking the floor they stand on. The fight is awesome too. You crash him into walls, slowly taking off parts of his armor and eventually taking his gauntlets and just relentlessly bashing his face in with them. Out of all the God of War games, this one definitely had the best circle mashing sections, as I felt like they actually added to a fight in a cinematic way. You later on fight Kratos, the father of Zeus and the Titan that you climbed for 3 days in God of War 1. You climb up his gigantic body, blinding him when you can use Helios' face, and eventually get swallowed by him. But you should know Kratos by now. He guts Kratos from the inside and smashes a mechanism on his chest that results in his head getting pierced. You then stab him in the head with a sword of Olympus, killing him. You also fight a scorpion thing, but that was definitely not as cool as all the other foes you have defeated thus far. So, the final boss is Zeus, and you once again need to open Pandora's box so you can get the powers from within. This is pretty much the main objective of the game. In order to open the box, you need to find Pandora herself, who is trapped inside a Rubik's Cube, but big. This labyrinth area is pretty cool. You need to rotate entire rooms to solve it, and eventually you find Pandora. Kratos was initially really cold towards her, but eventually he grows fond of her. There truly is still a shimmer of humanity left in Kratos. So, even though Pandora really wants to sacrifice herself to open the box and help Kratos defeat Zeus, Kratos tries his best to stop her. But due to Zeus shit-talking him, he can't control his rage and leaps at Zeus to beat the shit out of him. This causes Pandora's box to open, and inside, Kratos finds nothing. The box is completely empty. I felt my guts sink in as Zeus laughs at Kratos and the fight between them continues. Gaia, who was thought to be dead because when Kratos came back from hell he killed her so he could progress, comes in and decides she wants to kill both of you. She tries crushing the area you are in, but Zeus and Kratos narrowly escape, leaving the rest of the fight to be inside Gaia herself. This phase was honestly pretty difficult, but Kratos eventually prevails and stabs Zeus and Gaia's heart with the sword of Olympus, killing them both. As the rubble clears, Kratos retrieves the sword and throws it aside, only for Zeus' soul to come out of his body and suck all the powers and health out of Kratos. Holy fuck, will this dude just die? Anyways, Kratos takes a journey through his consciousness with Pandora as his guide. In order for Kratos to beat Zeus once and for all, he must forgive himself for all the things that haunt him. With the power of hope, Kratos receives the powers of Pandora's box once again and beats Zeus into a bloody pulp, leaving the screen completely red. After all is said and done, Greece lays in complete ruin, and Athena asks Kratos for Pandora's power back, but he refuses. He stabs himself in the chest with the blade of Olympus, ending his life so the hope inside of him can be spread out through Greece, a truly selfless act. This ends this amazing trilogy. God of War 3 was definitely my favorite out of all 3 games. Its visuals are astonishingly beautiful. I was genuinely impressed with how good the game looked. The combat is even more fluent than ever before, the story was compelling and satisfying, and the bosses were the coolest thing ever. There were even more boobs in this one, but this time they were in HD, and there's an actual sex minigame that you come across just by doing the main story, which was really weird, but to each their own. Apparently there are also these minigames in the first 2 games, but they're hidden. The boat guy from the first 2 games that Kratos killed like 7,000 times is referenced when you find a note he wrote in Hell talking about Kratos, and I love that they just kept him through every game. A lot of things Kratos has done in these games were absolutely horrible, like when he rescued Poseidon's daughter only to have her crushed by a gear thing so he could progress. Kratos is definitely on the brink of losing any sort of empathy. But I'm glad he showed some emotion with Pandora, and this sets up his arc in the new games perfectly. Overall, the God of War trilogy is amazing. These games have truly exceeded my expectations. They're decently difficult, perfectly paced for the most part, and insanely fun. I'm so glad I decided to play through these games, and I'm happy that I got to share it with you all. In the end, I defeated Sony with the powers given to me from Microsoft's box.
What kind of childish trickery is this? You have already lost, mortal.